honor to introduce to you Pat Labez. Pat is the founder of Third Act Encore, an international best-selling author, actor, producer, speaker, and she has earned the title the Joy Boomer. The Joy Boomer, as she helps other baby boomers amplify their joy to restore, repurpose, and redefine retirement. With a broad experience in long-term care administration and human resources / volunteer management, Pat has served on many senior advisory volunteer programs, including the Alzheimer's Association, AARP, Council on Aging, and RSVP, Retired and Senior Volunteer Program, and Hospice. After a 30-year hiatus from show business that started in Hawaii and following family losses and her own health challenge with a brain tumor, she finds herself returning to film and television, including Blue Bloods on CBS, New Amsterdam on NBC, The Other Two on HBO Max, a feature film in post-production, and much more. Pat combines her professional life experiences to help other seniors. That always confuses people because they're like, you're not a senior.
Right.
And their families navigate through the challenges that many face in retirement. Quoting, "A joyful heart is the beat of life." Welcome, Pat. And I'm going to share your story, Pat. And for total transparency, Pat is actually my aunt. She's my mother's youngest sister here. So I have a very personal connection. So when you watch this video, which talks about family, and there as well, keep in mind that's also my family.
If I could turn back time, if I could find a way. How many of you have thought about that? Wishing and hoping that you could do things differently, and if you had a chance to do it all over again, what would you do? With a flick of a switch, life can change. As I see the images of war in Ukraine, I remember my mom, a journalist, a concert pianist, living a good life in the Philippines, and suddenly found herself in a dungeon at Fort Santiago where hundreds died, a prisoner of war during World War II. I heard of the atrocities like babies being tossed up in the air, speared in front of their mothers. When I went back to Manila and saw that dark, dingy, eerie dungeon where she was kept, my heart ached imagining what she had to go through just to survive, as many are doing today. My mom was one of the lucky ones surviving when somebody helped her escape, and she led a good life until the long goodbye, Alzheimer's. Yes, with a flick of a switch, life can change. It was my mom's Alzheimer's that took me into the world of long-term care, where I could see and feel the mental, emotional, and physical toll of aging and impact on families. About 8 years ago, with a flick of a switch, my life changed. I woke up unable to move and was diagnosed with a brain tumor while taking care of my sister who was battling pancreatic cancer. Follow your passion, your destiny, my sister would say. She was my inspiration. I lost her 4 years later, and she must have taken my tumor with her because my next MRI miraculously indicated it was undetectable. With a flick of a switch, life can change, up or down, in darkness and light. Feeling like I'd truly been given a second chance at life in my 60s, I reconnected with an old love, show business, and I've since done some television, short films, a feature film, and some cabaret even through COVID. It's all about finding joy in the journey. Well, we can't turn back time, but we can choose the path of joy. The future is promised to no one, and yet people complain about getting old, and I say we're just getting seasoned. You know, they say that the first act of life is when we learn the skills to navigate through life, and the second act is working on our career, marriage, kids, family, and the third act of life is about the pursuit of wisdom, self-actualization, and leaving some kind of a legacy. Recently, I saw a study showing that folks in their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s are actually in the most productive stage of their lives. I like that report. See, I truly believe that I am now living the best stage of my life, right now. What I've learned through all of this is that life is a gift that keeps on giving. Embrace it, and let's help each other celebrate well into our third act. Find your passion, revive your dreams, live your best life. This competition is a gift to myself, part of my efforts to explore new experiences and redefine my life and legacy. It's time to share my voice, share my heart, and I'd like to think that somehow, no matter how small it may be, I am making a difference in this lifetime. A couple of weeks ago, I was told that the tumor is back. With a flick of a switch, life can change, just like that.
Pat, I'm so in awe of you. The way that you can share that story, it's so poignant. You know, it's not a poor me story, and it totally could have been, you know. You just speak from such love. You can feel the love in you and the hope. So I think you are the perfect person to kick this this summit day 2 off. So we thank you. We thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. I get choked up every time. Yeah.
Don't worry, I have the tissues here too. It's all good to cry.
The Kleenex is within reach.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, going into the competition, the war broke, and I had a friend who fled Ukraine, and that's kind of got things started with that. And you start thinking back, and yeah, and then when I was told, I'd had a number of issues, health things going on early this year, it makes you pause.
And well, obviously, and I might slip into saying Auntie Pat instead of saying Pat, because she grew up. Just so you know, my Auntie Pat literally changed my diapers. That's how close we are. So she's a second mother, and so that was super impactful for me. Obviously, seeing family in the video and hearing her story, but I can tell you now that Pat is much of my inspiration, right? And everyone says, Ronnie, you do so much. And Pat and I kind of compete in a lot of ways. Going, what are you doing? Well, what am I doing? She's like, well, I'm in this movie. And like, well, I'm doing a summit. Whatever you are. I think she trumps me in a couple of different areas there. But the point is that drive to do and to live life, right? Regardless, I'm 52, and that would make, I'm not going to say, oh, you were that, but boy, right? But we are both in our quote third act encore. And so, Pat, when we talk about this whole, obviously this journey that you're in right now, you're still moving forward. Right? How do you, what is your advice, if you will, for people who may feel like giving up? I mean, you have a number of reasons, but
don't wait. Yeah, what's keeping you? I think, when I was in my 20s, I was in tour and travel and living in Hawaii. I remember meeting folks even back then, who've retired, and now they're on their dream trip to Hawaii. and they can barely move. They can't even enjoy, it's limited, right? So I think that kind of planted the seed in me to not wait, you know. But of course, life gets in the way. We have responsibilities and such. And, in my late 20s, I'm kind of a late bloomer all around, I guess. I, kind of dabbled in acting. A lot of things just kind of I stumble into, and I say, hey, why not? Hey, why not? That sounds like fun. Let's do it. And then, I kind of pulled away from that, and life kind of took me in a whole nother direction, long-term care, which also fed my soul. Everything that I've done, I think, again, is finding joy in the journey. However, you can make a difference in people's lives, whatever that is. Now into my 60s, interestingly enough, things are revived, and all of a sudden I find myself again, doors opening. And rather than resisting it, I kind of decided, why not? Because the fact that I was basically told out of the blue, we can't find that tumor, it was just kind of a good reminder while I'm able-bodied. In fact, just a couple of weeks ago, I came back from California, covered 10 cities, 5 counties in 7 to 8 days, just doing what I could, seeing the people that I really wanted to see, and getting through things that were important to me while I can, because time and time again, I've found myself in situations where the flick of a switch, life can change. I mean, I literally woke up one morning and I wasn't able to move, So yeah, just not taking anything for granted. And, but within reason, we also have to take care of our bodies. And
absolutely,
this last week, I was reminded of that.
Everything in balance, right? Or I think is okay. And we need some times where we kind of go off the deep end in indulgences, and then times where we pull it back, because life is full of ebbs and flows. But if we don't enjoy it, then what was the point of the journey?
Even my, I'm the youngest of 9, and Ronnie's mom was number 2. And we lost her suddenly, it was literally, right. She was on the phone, and
then she wasn't. She was on the phone, and then she wasn't. Like that. And literally,
think, oh, tomorrow, right? Oh, we'll get someday we'll get together. Someday I'll, and there's a tendency to think that, okay, there's always tomorrow.
Right.
And no, the future is promised to no one. Right. And so I tend to kind of function in the moment and embrace what it is. And as Catherine, said yesterday, it's that dark box, even in those darkest moments. I don't spend a whole lot of time. Sometimes you have to allow yourself to go through whatever grieving and angst, but at some point you got to open that box and see what's in there, and you realize, wow, here's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
This whole thing of meeting everybody, of writing my story, of speaking, all of that was born out of some of the darkest moments in my life. Early last year, it was a very dark time, to the point where I felt paralyzed. In spite of all the good stuff that have happened prior to that. And, at some point you just have to, kind of remind yourself, okay, enough is enough, and try to think back and remember what makes your soul, what makes your heart pitter patter. The drive. And sometimes we forget, especially in, when you get to this stage in life, you kind of resolve and resign yourself oftentimes to, oh, well, shoulda, coulda, woulda, oh, well, that's the past, I never envisioned, quite honestly, to be back acting and enjoying the whole thing, in my 60s, right? Or to learn how to sing and do shows, at this stage in my life. And it's been a beautiful gift. And I see everything as a gift, I guess. Even the stuff that doesn't work not quite what we envisioned. At some point, that is a gift because we're not meant to go there. We're just meant to go in another direction. And I'm kind of in that, why not? Discover a lot of things along the way. Like yesterday, Anesh, I was reminded I actually like languages, but it was never focus, the focus sentences that he talked about. Like, wow, yeah, I need to do that. So it's a lifelong learning, isn't it? It's never too late.
Never too late. And I think the why not is so it popped out to me, and also there's a comment in the chat, so I see it's hitting our audience too. And I know that you and Ronnie are taking that attitude forward in your new Emerging Speakers Club and inviting other people in their third act to say why not. So would you care to share a little bit about that with us?
Yes, I mean, when I looked into Speaker Slam, as I mentioned on that tape, I'm really not into competition, because to me, the competition is within ourselves. Oftentimes, at least for me, it's like, what can I do, because there's always a new discovery. But when the program to offer this to others, and time and time again, I have folks reaching out to me saying, how can you be doing that? Or, I've always wanted to act, or I've always wanted to speak, but I kind of figured it was too late, And to be able to encourage that and let them know that it isn't too late, and to be able to provide that platform. And really, Ronnie's taking the lead with this Emerging Speakers Club. Whether or not the idea is to be a professional speaker, oftentimes it's really just being able to share your message, your voice, some story that we all have stories, and a lot of times we think they're insignificant, and yet, there's a saying, right? To the world, you may be one person, but to one person, you may be the world. If you touch that one person, you might say something, you might share a story in a book, or something triggers that turns things around for that person. Wow, you've made a difference. Yeah. So that's being able to provide these various platforms, is a gift.
And you've got things still moving right now, and I know from that video people are like, oh my gosh, this is everyone's praying for you and sending good vibes. Do you have any updates you want to share with anybody?
Wow. Well, we're preparing, we have the third act encore, Journeys of a Lifetime book that's being launched here shortly. So it'll be a compilation book. I volunteered for hospice for some time, some 20 something years ago. And I remember back then with videotape, we didn't have videotapes. It was a cassette tape, a story, and shared that with families, and how grateful their families were. Like, I didn't know mom had that, or, dad had that, experienced this. And this amazing gratitude to have that, and now basically putting that into the book, and have them become a bestseller, and videotaping that if they so wish, or having the speaker, platform and be able to share those stories. Yeah, that's something that we're launching, and it's exciting to be able to encourage, that generation, or my peers, to keep going. Kind of like my orchid here. It's been I've been away for a month or so, and it's hanging in there.
Never giving up.
Never give up.
Not giving up. I love it. You're so, like, honestly, I could just listen to you forever, Pat. I could have the whole day of Pat But then again, I don't want to miss the other speakers coming up
Yes.
either. My mom is 87, and if I can just share for a second, the other day she said, I figured there must be a reason that I'm still on this earth. Like I must have a purpose. God must have a plan for me. This is what she says. I'm like, this is not my mother at all. And so I was like, yes. And I told her about you, and I told her about the stats that you shared with us. So thank you for spreading joy in the world, for being so inspiring. Where can people reach you, Pat?
Oh, thirdactencore.com. I am Facebook, LinkedIn. What do you call that? What's IG?
Yeah.
Instagram.
As you can tell, I don't do those. I'm technologically challenged, which is why it's great to have Ronnie.
I'm a tech support.
I'm his best.
Good to have tech support in the family, Pat.
Emergency. But yeah, you can message me. I'm open to that. I think the beautiful thing, even I've done basically geriatric care management and such, and so to be able to share whatever I can, and direct them to resources. That's a whole nother thing. It has become part of me. And so, yeah, just reach out.
Oh, there was a question about what book
Yes.
you were signing in the video. What book you were
What book?
signing?
Yeah,
in
I've
the
got
video.
2 books. One is Ignite Possibilities. This was the first one. And I write about finding joy in the journey. And the second one is Ignite the Hunger in You. This was actually done with Les Brown. And my story here is Mom, Are You Okay? And also kind of talking about sharing a time in my life when it was supposed to be joyous but I was going through a dark time, postpartum depression, and overcoming all of that. And again, that's something that many don't talk about, And so, yeah, it's all about igniting possibilities.
That, I think that leads so well into the last question of what does never give up mean to you?
Oh, what does never give up? Keep on keeping on. Sometimes you might have to take a pause, and you just listen to yourself, because there's so much external noise out there, so many, external influences that sometimes we can lose ourselves in that. And I think reconnecting, and then you pick up the pieces, like sure. This is the other book too. Love Remains is a book from Tracy Stone, a guide through gift. I highly recommend it as well. I was interviewed for this. It's not my book, Tracy Stone, but that's the other thing. But it's all about writing and just sharing what you can based on our own life stories, right? So thank you for this summit and learning so much from all of the speakers. It's been an incredible time.
Amazing.
Thank you. And of course, I know we'll talk later today, probably. So again, everyone, thirdactencore.com, and you can find Pat on Facebook and Instagram. There. And I'm probably managing that for her. So hit me up.
A work in progress, but yeah. Thank you.
But she doesn't let it stop her. She's moving forward. So keep trucking.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Aloha.
Thank you.
Aloha.